Live. All right, we're good.
Are we? Okay.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. We're going to give a few seconds for everyone to come into chat. I hope everyone's having a great Saturday.
Yes, hopefully a green candle Saturday.
Yes. Rick and I actually just finished shooting another episode, which should come out early next week. It should be a good one. We had a good time recording this. So this is our live stream series now.
Yeah. We recorded with Dash on governance, and it was fantastic.
Yes. Learned a lot. All right, Rick, let's go.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 106 of the Cardano Effect podcast. This is our live stream series. Let's get right into the mix of things. We have a few stake pool operators here. Rick, how you doing this morning? What's going on? What's happening?
Hey, I'm doing absolutely fantastic, Philippe. Thank you for asking. And I'd like to give a shout out to the Cardano Foundation for sponsoring this podcast. Thank you very much, Cardano Foundation, for helping us bring great content to the Cardano community. I would also like to remind viewers the podcast is available on all major audio streaming platforms, including a brand new release on Amazon Music. We are now up on Amazon Music. We are also presently synchronizing with lbry.tv, that's library.tv, which is a decentralized streaming platform. The synchronization will be done in a few days, and we'll let you guys know when it's available. Okay, so Philippe, I got that out of the way, and what are we here to talk about today? Some very important stuff.
Yes, we have a lot of things to talk about today. I just wanted to introduce some of the stake pool operators that we have. So if we want to go around the room and you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, your pool, and then we can get into the real gravy of this episode. So let's start with you, Shawn. How are you today? What's going on? Where are you calling in from? What's happening?
I'm great. Thanks. It's cool to be back on the show, and I'm calling in from Santa Cruz, California, and I run Squid Pool, which is running in the cloud and serving the world.
Glad to hear that. To hear that. Welcome, Shawn. Jian, how are you? What's going on?
I'm very well. Thanks, guys, for having me here. It's a pleasure. I'm calling from Perth, Australia, and I run Brother Pool. It's a pool based in the cloud as well, but it's based in Brazil. I'm a Cardano ambassador, and I mod some of the Facebook official chat and the Portuguese and the Brazilian page. And yeah, I'm glad to be here talking about Cardano today.
Glad to have you here. Ahmed, how are you? Where are you calling in from? What's going on?
Fine. Good evening. My name is Ahmed from Lagos, Nigeria. I run the Anchor Pool. It's also based on the cloud somewhere in Germany and another one in the Netherlands.
All right, thank you.
Glad to have you. Michael, what's going on?
Hi guys, I'm Michael. I run Ada Vibe, also cloud-based in Germany, Finland, and in Belgium. And I'm calling me from Belgium, so the weather is great for once.
All right,
well, thank you for being here. Yes, yes. We have a diverse population all over the world today. So this is awesome. A lot of country representation. And we have Africa in the house as well, which is awesome. So let's start off with Shawn. We wanted to talk about Shawn's CIP proposal. So can you tell us a little bit more about why you submitted the proposal, the purpose of it? Maybe introduce this whole issue of what we're having within the stake pool operator community as far as the debate from the K factor to the A0 factor, and how your model helps to improve the economic model for stake pool operators to run their pools successfully. So if you can give us an introduction, and then maybe we can start a little bit conversation between us.
Sure, sounds good. So what I think, and really I saw one of your early videos talking about before they decided on the value of A0, which gives us how much additional rewards you get depending on the pledge you have in your pool. And how it really required a high amount of pledge to get any substantial reward. And so when I looked at that problem and I thought about it, instead of raising the value of A0 to get enough rewards for the pools with reasonable pledges in the under 5 million range, which the more you raise the A0, then the super whales who can pledge huge amounts get astronomical returns, which didn't seem reasonable to me. And so what I thought was, if we use a curve instead of a straight line, that you can give better return to people for pledges in even the 10K, 50K, 200K kind of range. That's still increasing. So the whales get their better rewards, but it incentivizes the stake pool operators to actually pledge something, because I think we saw with 1% early on had a 10K pledge, and it didn't make any difference to the rewards that the delegators were getting. And so this proposal would make it so that any pledge in those smaller ranges would increase the rewards for delegators.
Okay, thank you for that, Shawn. And so I would like to wind the tape back a little bit and go to, what are the parameters set to right now? How well are they working? And what could be done better? Okay, so we have the K parameter set to 150. What does that mean to us? We have the A0 parameter is currently set to 0.3, and what's the effect on the network? And the D parameter is now set to, I believe, 0.34 or 34% of the pools. Yeah, 34. Okay. All right. So let's start with the K parameter. And right now it's linear. Not linear. I won't go into that yet. Not linear. But the K parameter is set to 150. What does that mean to us? What does that mean to the delegators, the pools?
Yeah. So the K parameter, and the tricky thing with the parameters is that they're all interrelated. And so you can't just take one and say, oh, K is too low, we need to just make it 1,000, because it changes everything else. And K will define what the maximum amount of delegation you can get in a pool before it's saturated. And so the higher K is, the smaller all the pools are going to be. So right now at 150, that means over 200 million can go into a pool without being saturated. If we go up to say 200 or 250, then it brings it down to something in the lower 100 million range. And what that does is give us both. There's two factors. One is the limitation of the saturation, but the other part about K is that the protocol and the rankings and the incentives are designed to bring the delegation to K pools and away from pools that are lower down than the top K pools. So there's some tricky relationships between these things, but my feeling is that in general, bringing K up some doesn't impact very many pools. I know it would impact you, Rick, but you would be able to create another pool and get your delegators to move into that pool. And a little bit higher K will help out the smaller pools and the network overall.
Yeah, but what's the problem with raising K too much? Like, let's go back to this. What is the purpose of K?
Yeah,
and then what is the problem if we just set it to 1,000? We set it to 5,000 right now.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Yeah, I mean, if you set it to 1,000, then you're limiting the amount of ADA that can go into a pool to only 30 million. And so then you get saturated. And so what you would end up with is the top pools that are attracting a lot of stake right now would have to create like 50 pools. And so it doesn't really help anyone to raise K that much. For me, really it's the interplay with the other factors that are going to help the smaller pools. And I can go into some of those other parameters that I think would be beneficial to smaller pools if you want.
Yeah. Oh, and one of the key purposes is you're not supposed to raise K unless the price of ADA goes up.
Yeah.
That way you have sustainability, which was one of the core pillars behind Cardano, is the sustainability factor. So you can't just set K infinitely high, because K is supposed to adjust according to the price of ADA. I think 150 started off too low. My initial estimates were about 250 to 500. And I think one of the core problems, and guys, feel free to chime in here, how many pools did we have on the ITN before we shifted over to Mainnet?
Over 1,000, like about 300, 400 producing blocks, I think, on a regular base, I think was the number. And then we had the short Haskell testnet, which we had about 400, wasn't it? About that. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Rick. I think I don't think we should go to 1,000K, but I stay at like 150 was too low. I think my number would be like a 300, but that's, anyone could pick a number, but we need to do something. And I really agree with Shawn when he says like we can't think about the parameters itself, like there's a lot of parameters. And I see a lot in chats people saying, oh, we need to raise K, we need to raise K. It's not just that. We need to think that through all together. And to bring K to 1,000, it's not sustainable. We need to make stake pools to be a business, and people need to sustain a business with the rewards. And if we bring that with ADA at 10 cents, we can't do that. So I think we need to think carefully about those parameters.
Yeah, but like for me, I agree with a lot of it, but not with all of it, because let's say we're at the startup phase, and to me, a startup, especially in a newer field, they don't reach profitability the first year, or maybe even the second or the third. I think right now what we also need to do is we need to expand the net to get all the proficient stake pool operators to give them all a chance. And then when we have that net, we have that great base of stake pool operators, then you can start by increasing A or decreasing K, so that they can work together and they have a platform to do so. Because let's say right now there's a lot of talk about joining up with other stake pool operators, but for the smaller pools that doesn't make any sense, because 2 times nothing is still nothing, or 2 times very low stake and very low pledge, that's not going to amount to something with the current parameters.
What number do you guys think is good now? What should K be? What do you think?
I would say K should be around 250 as of today, based on the fact that the price of ADA is quite low. It will help to also reduce the number of cyber attack that can happen to the system. So the sad part of this story is the small pool operators are being killed off. Meaning, I've seen like a couple of small pool operators having to stop their pools. For example, my pool is a small pool. I only mint block one epoch, then I go off for another epoch, because I have just about 1 million ADA in my pool right now. So I don't get to mint block every epoch, and that translates to like a 400 ADA rewards. So if you do that in a month, that would be like 30 days, and 30 days means I will only get like 1,200 rewards. If I do that, it is not a sustainable business. But just like Michael said, it's a startup. We should be able to project and say, we're not interested in making a profit maybe for the first 1 year. Like, for example, we were on the ITN since December till July, and we didn't get paid a dime. So I would say it's all for the growth of the system. The thing that should be done should be around the Cardano Foundation being able to throw some golden tickets to some small pools just to keep them in the business. Because at the end of the day, you need the diversity. You need it to be decentralized. You will not want to have a pool being dominated by the big guys only. You would want to be able to run pool all over the world. For example, for me to run my pool from Nigeria would say I would have to be paying like a $250 per month. Because of the infrastructures here, you cannot compare that to the kind of infrastructures that you get in Germany or in the US, for example. So for me, for a start, I'm a working developer, so I can actually afford the VPS for now, for the next 1 year or more, hoping that the system will balance off and the price of ADA will go up. Then by then, my pledge will be a little bit meaningful.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Rick, I wanted to jump in real quick because I don't know how everyone feels about this, but the way the message, the marketing message of becoming a stake pool operator is very contradictory to what the actual business model is. I mean, the way the actual project was sold was like everyone can run a stake pool. I mean, that whole Rock Pi initiative, it indicated that regardless of your technical expertise or how much money you had to commit to hardware, anyone can run a pool. But that's obviously not the case given the actual metrics. And one of the issues I had personally was that even for small pools, a way to get them to boost their actual standings within the stake pool operator community was to make pledge actually a little bit more significant. And that would allow them to have some sort of competitive advantage and allow them to market in a way that says, oh, I can offer an additional X percentage points if you stake with my pool. And that would be a good marketing strategy, but it's gone the completely opposite way. So do you think that there's some sort of conflation between what's actually being said about what you can do as a stake pool operator and what the reality is? Is there any way to meet in the middle ground? I don't know. I wanted to open up the floor to everyone.
Yeah, I think that the messaging at the beginning, like you said, was a little bit off from what the math worked out to be, and also the rankings in Daedalus, I think, had a big effect on this, because the design of the Daedalus rankings is to move all of the delegation to those top K pools. And I actually have submitted a new CIP on this to remove that design goal from the rankings, because I think that is really one of the things that drives people. They just see the top pools in Daedalus, pick one, and they're done. They don't research or look at smaller pools.
And they don't have any incentives, I don't think, from the beginning. The way Daedalus is designed, like think with the head of a delegator. Why would you scroll down to the 200 plus pools if you open your wallet and you have like 10 pools in front of you? That doesn't provide you any information saying, look, guys, you better not delegate to this pool because it's oversaturated. You look at IOG pool now, has like a 300 million delegate in there, and they don't have any sort of information, valuable information to delegators. Yeah, I was very disappointed the way Daedalus came up, because we had on the specs saying a pool saturated goes down to the bottom of the list, and it's not happening now, and we see that over and over. But I would just like to go back a little bit what Ahmed said about and what's killing small pools. And in my view, it is K and it is D going down slow, but in my experience, what I believe has a bigger impact is the minimum fee. Because like if you have a small pool, the 348 takes a lot away from your rewards. Pools that have a lot of stake, that's divided by many delegators, they don't feel anything. But when you go into ranks like other pools and you see my pool there, and you see like 12% fee, and you go like, what? Like, why I gonna delegate to this guy? I think a way to mitigate that would be we taking away this minimal fee or making this very small and then introduce some sort of minimal variable fee, which is put a floor at 2%, 3%, or whatever might be the case. And then, so that would be fair to everyone. So that's, I think it's a bigger issue for smaller pools, because if they change K now, for me, like I'm around the 9 to 10 million K, that won't change anything for my pool. I might get a few delegators, but the only ones that are going to be impacted is like a bigger pools that we need to add a split into more pools, and then pools around 50 million or 70 million that might get more delegators. That won't change anything. If a stake pool operator is thinking that, oh, increasing K gonna solve your problem, that's not gonna be the case, unfortunately.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the minimum fee is a burden on small pools. And one of the things about that is, even if we reduce that and introduce a minimum variable fee, some people will be able to create, once Goguen is out, you can create a smart contract to give the fees back to your delegators. And there's people are already doing this. So the minimum fee may be irrelevant at some point anyway. So I think it would be good to either reduce it or get rid of it.
Yeah, and I think also the fixed cost fee has failed its purpose, because I don't see a lot of pools really putting their costs in it. So most of them just put in the minimum costs and that's it. Nobody, I know one guy who does it. One guy who puts in his real costs in the fixed cost part. But yeah, for everyone else, it's just it's literally, for everyone else, it's almost the same.
What happens if someone puts in their real fixed cost or their real cost into that parameter? Let's say 500 instead of 340. What happens to that pool? Everybody says, "Oh, they're greedy," right?
Yeah.
And then they don't delegate to it.
Yeah, we have this problem, I think, in Cardano in general. Like, people are sort of mixing up volunteer to like a non-paid work, and looking at people that are looking to get paid for what they're doing. Oh, you want to be paid for your work? Well, yes, I'm working. So I think we need to kind of try to educate people a bit more and see, like, I stake pool and any other kind of work you're doing, you deserve to be paid for that. You're doing a service. And
yes, I would venture to guess that any pool operator out there worth their salt is probably putting in at least 20 hours a week worth of effort. And if you want the network to be solid and sustainable, they're going to have to put in that effort, either reading, staying up to date, making sure they have the latest updates installed, verifying that the node's running correctly. Granted, the Haskell code does run very smooth, but you still have to, if you want to make sure the network's running solid, the pool operators still have to do their due diligence to ensure that their nodes are running correctly. And I think 20 hours a week is a pretty fair low ballpark number early on, because we're still learning to trust the software and we're still learning to trust our skills, right? The training wheels are off.
Plus the time everyone puts like a helping delegators. I have my own pool Telegram chat where people ask questions, and then we go Twitter marketing. So it's not only looking after the node itself. There is a lot more involved into that I'm not factoring for now.
That's a good point as well. No, I didn't want this to turn into a stake pool operator. Let's just, you know what I'm saying? A complaint about stuff. I'm saying, how do we make it better? How do we get K improved? One question I have is, how do we even get K to change, right? I think people would ask, let alone get to Shawn's CIP. We'll come back to that. If we want K to change, how does someone actually physically change the parameter on the network? Someone tell me about that. How does that work? How does it work? I know how it works. I want you guys to tell me about it. What has to happen?
I can try.
Yeah, go, Ahmed.
Okay, I can try. So because so far, for every change, there is like a proposal that is sent to the network. I think it's someone that does that. So we'd have to do send a transaction with a proposal to change a particular parameter, and that takes effect in the next epoch.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how I understand it too.
And because they control the majority of the network, they all agree on that parameter, and then it gets changed. I'm pretty sure when that G goes below 0.5, the majority of the stake in the network needs to agree that as well. Otherwise, that is not changed.
So today that we have 34% or 35% of the blocks being made by the community, does that mean that the community should have up to 35% stake in what K should be? Maybe we should vote.
Right. Let's 6 of us here. Let's vote right now. Let's say the K parameter was set. Let's say we set it to like 400, for example, just to kind of like cut it down the middle. Okay. How would we get IOG to change it?
Oh, we don't. We just wait on them.
Yeah. Yeah. For now, there's no way to go in that discussion with them. They decide. For now, they have all the cards in their hands, and they decide in which direction we're going.
Okay.
But good thing that I saw last week, and you guys saw as well, they put a guy, I think his name's Colin, to work. I'm not sure if he was brought from outside into IOG or he was an employee that was changed to this, but he's a guy that's actually working in like looking at the parameters and actually giving feedbacks on Telegram. So I think that's we have progress there. At least there's someone looking into that and listening. So we should see some change, I believe.
Yeah, I've talked with Colin a little bit about my proposal and also the parameters, and he's very interested in getting a better set of parameters and a better situation for the stake pool operators. And I think he's a little more closer to being in touch with the community than some of the people who are more in the research side, who are more focused on their mathematical models, and they don't necessarily take into consideration that there's people behind these math.
Well said, Shawn. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree with
that. So getting the community inputs and the pool operator inputs on how and when to change K is important. Taking into consideration, K also depends on the price of ADA. Also taking into consideration some things that were brought up, and let me play advocate for IOG for a minute. I'm going to play IOG's friend. It's going to be hard for me to sell to the entire community. I'm going to have to change and get everybody to move their stake pools, because if I raise K to 500, well, right now it's at 150, so let's say 300. If I raise it to 300 right now, today, or for the next epoch, that's going to take the saturation point from 211 million to 105.5 million. So the saturation point is going to drop. What is the impact on the stakers? What's going to happen? Well, they're going to lose rewards, right? So I can't change it. Yeah, they'll move, but it'll take a while.
If they don't move, they will lose rewards. Yeah,
I think there needs to be a time frame where there's a warning of, we are going to change K to 300 and in 60 days or 12 epochs. And then that way the word can get out to people, because many delegators just delegate it and forget it, and they don't pay attention. And so you have to give them an opportunity to be able to find out about it and actually move their delegation.
So I can't just change K next epoch, it is kind of hard. And I think that's a fair point, that it needs to be communicated well so that people don't lose rewards unfairly, right? But then what happens when you hit a bull run and the price skyrockets and you're supposed to change K and you don't change K, so there's all kinds of other stuff we're going to have to look at, because, during a bull run, K's bounce, the price can double in a week and cut in half the next week. Are we going to be throttling K every epoch? That's one thing. And another thing is, once they communicate the change, that they are going to in fact change K, my suggestion is use the calendar month so that it's human friendly, right? If we're going to say, all right, we're going to change K to some number for the month of, well, it's September, so it's going to be kind of hard to change for October. But if you change it for the month of November, and then people can think, oh, November, yeah, that makes sense. I know what November is. But if I tell them we're going to change it in Epoch 263, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, Epic 263, when's that? You know, and then you're going to get 5,000 questions in Telegram with people saying, when's Epic 263, right? So let's use calendar months. That's my suggestion. Okay? Use the calendar.
Yeah, I think they should have used like a 7-day epoch to begin with. I think would be easier. Maybe there is some, theoretical, mathematical reason behind it, but would have been a lot easier to everybody if they had like a 7-day 7-day epoch.
I think so too. I think Sebastian's suggested 3.5-day epochs so that a turn of the epic will never happen on a weekend.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
That is a good idea. All right, so that was K. What do you think, Philippe? Are we good on K? Should I go to chat or we go look at A0? And then I pulled up Shawn's graph so we'll go to that in a little while so we can put that up.
Okay.
Because that's a really good graph.
Sounds good. Let's field some questions from chat and then head over to Shawn's graph.
Yeah. There was a question in chat earlier that I really wanted to get to, and it scrolled. Let me check.
But in the meantime, I like the point that Shawn made about, we look at IOG, they're the mathematical scientific team behind creating this project, but what I've seen, they haven't proven that they can build a proper economic model. And just because you can build, you understand the science and the math behind building a blockchain protocol, we can't assume that IOG knows what's best to move this economic model forward. At the end of the day, there are a lot of scientists that work for IOG, and I'm sure, and I know that a lot of them don't hold ADA like some of the bags that people are holding within the community. They go, they work, they're creating, but the level of investment from an investor who's been involved with this project for a couple of years versus someone that's coming in, putting a long-term hedge on this project, expecting it to go to this certain price, that's not the same mentality for the scientists that are working at IOHK or IOG. So we need to definitely, like Shawn's CIP proposal moving forward, we need to be vocal about exactly what kind of economic structure we want in order to move this forward. I think that a lot of operators have good advice, and I think that listening to all these different ideas and trying to formulate a plan and helping out these companies, helping out IOG, Emergo, and Cardano Foundation, making proper decisions moving forward so it can benefit everyone. I think that's great.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, so one of the questions that came up, kind of on topic, can you cap the delegation to pools? Let's say once a pool hits saturation, can the pool operator say no more delegation? Is it possible, and why not? Is it why not?
No, it's not, because you can't block someone to propagate a transaction on the blockchain. You can inform them, you can make wallets better, you can provide information better, but you can't prevent anyone to delegate to a saturated pool.
Yeah, it's blockchain. The only thing you can do is you can put it in a wallet, right? A wallet can stop you from doing it. The ITN Daedalus actually had a saturation warning indicator on that version of Daedalus. It's gone. I don't know where it went.
We could have like 3 pop-ups. Are you really sure you want to delegate to this pool? And then you hit yes, and then
yeah, I saw that from was it VV Chow? I think it was VV Chow from Kakapo Pool who made a graphic that said, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And she posted it on Twitter.
Or
that was pretty clever.
You could just have the pool in question drop off the grid. Like you don't show it anymore in any of the wallets. That's
Yes.
also a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't stop it on the blockchain.
No, you can't
cannot
stop it. No.
You can't.
That's true.
But it can be built into the wallet, like something to alert the delegator. Hey, what you're doing is something that you probably wouldn't want to do. Yeah. Let's see. And if there's any other questions in chat that are pressing, if anyone has questions, please let us know and I will check back shortly. Some comments about human friendliness. Human friendliness is always good. Yeah. Let's see. Q says the community is the fourth pillar of Cardano. We have to be more vocal, like Philippe said. Yes. Thank you, Q. I think it's it. Why need 2K change? That's what we were talking about. So from Pusha 311 is why do you need to change K? Well, the key is it's not just, it doesn't seem like an optimal number, but that's just my opinion. I think you all spoke to it. Does anyone else have anything to add? What is the need to change K? What do you think it should be?
I think that the one of the main reasons to change K is because of the design of the wallet rankings, and that the incentives right now are made to bring the delegators to the top K pools and to drain all the delegation out of everyone below K. So you have to either increase K or change the rankings and the incentives so that we're no longer doing that.
It's actually written on the specs that says the pools that are greater than K, they're only going to have the owner's stake. So basically saying, if you're not within K, goodbye, buddy. You won't survive. It's actually on the specs, and as hard as it sounds, it's the way it is. If we don't increase it, we're gonna the system gonna move towards to 150 pools. And do we really want to have a system like that? We always talk about decentralization, how other protocols are centralized, and then when we got a chance, we can't mess that up. We need to do better.
Yeah. I think that design goal really goes against the really a primary goal of Cardano is decentralization, and this is a centralizing effect.
It centralizes to K, yeah. And, Philippe and I were just talking with some Dash experts, and there'll be more on that later this week. But they had, 5,000 master nodes, but the skin in the game to run a master node is like 70,000. Right now, it's the equivalent of 70,000 US dollars to run a master node, but they have 5,000 master nodes running. So, something to think about.
And they said that they have 1,200 unique owners. So they estimate around 1,200 unique owners owning 5,000 master nodes. So the participation is over 1,000 for their model. It was actually very interesting. So
yeah, which seems pretty good. That's pretty good. If you got more than 1,000 people operating the nodes, you have a pretty decentralized system. But the K equals 150. I'm not sure where that came from. There's also the A0 parameter, right now set to 0.3. What does that do for us?
Well, I can speak to it a little bit. That the value, the 0.3, means that the maximum reward you can get from pledge is 30%. The 0.3 being 30%. And that means that if you are a super whale and you pledge enough to fully saturate your pool, you don't take anyone else's delegation, that you will get 30% more rewards than a pool that has zero pledge, even if it's fully saturated. So that's what the value it does. And so increasing that by itself creates an imbalance where you would have to increase it a lot to have it be meaningful for smaller pledges, but then the super whales would get, hundreds or thousands of percent benefit.
Yeah, and maybe the super whales wouldn't be as much of a concern because they would just make a private pool and no one would care, right? But if someone were to have, say, 20 million pledge, that pool is going to be really desirable, right? because the benefit of the reward is going to be so significant. So if you were to raise A very far above 0.3, it has its benefits to prevent the Sybil attacks, right? Because right now 0.3 appears to be too low. Am I correct? Or did anybody else notice that? I know someone mentioned it earlier.
It's almost negligible at this point.
It is.
The A0 factor with K. So
Yeah, the
can pretty
problem
much
I
do
think
anything.
Shawn raises is the super whale gets a lot of rewards, but when we compare a pool that has 100,000 pledge and a pool that has 1 million, like the difference in rewards is nothing. And from what I could understand his proposal, that we make that more gradual, where there is a meaningful difference if you have 500,000 pledge or you have 700,000, and not only the whale gets the bigger rewards. Because if you think about it, there is no difference in the work a pool that has 200 million does comparing to a pool that has 300 million. Both gonna mint the block in the same way. So we don't seem to be that fair. They get in the amount of rewards more. Is that right, Shawn?
Yeah, that's totally right. And that's where the curve instead of the straight line gives us that ability to increase the rewards for those reasonable pledges of, 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, without giving the people with, 20, 50, 100 million, 200 million pledge such exorbitant rewards.
Shawn, do you want me to try to screen share that curve right now, and you can speak to it? It'll help the viewers, but we just have to be very verbose in describing it. So, you want me to pop that up on the screen?
Yeah, that would be great.
That'll be a great visual aid. All right. I hope this works. I only have one screen right now, so let's see how this goes. Tell me if it looks good. I've got it going up.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, so you can see that the straight line going up is what is currently implemented, and the line that curves up more sharply at the beginning, and then keeps increasing so that you get more rewards if you have higher pledge, but it doesn't go up so sharply, is what I'm proposing. And the actual amount of how much this goes up at the different points is controlled by parameters. So the researchers and math people at the IOG can evaluate what the right amount of curve is there, but the important piece is that it's curved to bring that rewards up at the low end of the pledge range.
Okay, so in the upper graph right here, this is the whole graph going all the way up to 200 and about 210 million ADA. Over here, the percentage all the way up to 30%. So if I take a snippet out of this graph right here, this little snippet, that's what you're showing down here, right? This is a blow up. So on your proposal, yours is this orange line that has a curve, right?
Yep.
And then if I look at it on the low end,
sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Yeah, so that shows in the bottom one what's the meaningful part of this graph, because for normal stake pool operators, you're not pledging 100 or 200 million, and so you can see how it a pledge of even 50,000 or 200,000 can make enough of a difference that you can actually compete based on that. You can your ranking can be higher. You'll be able to attract more delegates. You can market the fact that you're getting more rewards, and it gives the stake pool operators something that they can actually compete on, as well as it incentivizes the stake pool operators to pledge more, which makes us more resistant to Sybil attacks. You don't have the fact that you can run pools with no pledge and potentially get lots of delegators.
Okay, thank you, Shawn. So right here, here's the current blue line that is really shallow in this cutout, all the way up to 1 million. And the reality is 1 million ADA is a lot of ADA, right? To the average person who would be willing to operate a pool or needs to operate a pool. If I'm a whale and I have 20 million ADA, I'm not going to operate a pool. I got better things to do. I got Lambos to drive, man. I don't need to be operating a pool, right? Or I'm running a law firm or running a corporation or something, right? So anyway, this is the current one from 0 to 1 million. I know this doesn't pledge in millions of ADA. So the difference between on this blue line of making a 200,000 ADA pledge or 1 million ADA pledge, there's almost no difference. It's barely 1%, right? But on this curve, if I were to pledge,
it's not even 0.5%, Rick. It's like it's like a 0.0 something.
Yeah, it is. It's not even. Yeah, good catch. Thank you. And I'm zoomed in too much. So if I pledge 200,000 here, I've got 0.75% benefit, right? And then if I pledge, well, I had a number here that was good. Where's it cross again? Oh, right here at 500,000. So if I do 500,000, I got a 1% benefit. Well, that doesn't seem like much, but it sure does make the pool a lot more attractive, right? Even though there's not that much of a gain, the delegators, the humans are going to like that. And then again here, right? But then at some point, it crosses.
What I like about Shawn's curve pledge benefit graph, this idea that IOG is using this linear model, which, I mean, we could change it. We can make the slope a lot steeper, but that's just going to kind of skew the rewards. I mean, the way Shawn puts this logarithmic function, I mean, you just have to slightly change the logarithmic function to prioritize what pledge is extremely important. So if as a community you determine that 50,000 ADA from a pledge operator is important, or 75,000 or 100,000, you just skew this logarithmic function in a way that it will generate that differential between that linear curve and the logarithmic function. So I think that this is a lot more flexible and dynamic than what's actually being used today. And it benefits small stake pool operators. So the whales will get richer. That's not the issue here. It's the issue of small stake pool operators who may not feel like they have a chance to survive. All of a sudden, pledge matters. And that's the whole marketing tool behind a stake pool operator actually getting more pledge. So, or getting more delegation. So I think that's a good curve. So yeah.
And that's a good point, Philippe, that the curve can be adjusted easily once this is implemented by a simple parameter change. So if we find out, oh, we made the curve a little bit too steep or not steep enough, it's easy to adjust that afterwards.
Okay. And I'm going to bring down the screen share. Anybody else have that? And I want to follow up with Shawn in a moment. All right, I'm going to bring that down back to normal again. And what happens if the price of ADA goes up significantly? Can that parameter be tweaked to adjust is that what you're getting at, Shawn?
Yeah. So that's the idea, is that if there's some, either when we implement this, we determine that, oh, it was a little bit off, we really didn't recognize something, or if the price of ADA changes substantially, then we can adjust those parameters. And I think many of the parameters in the protocol should be tied to sort of a long-term moving average of the price of ADA, because, like many of them, it matters a lot, like what the minimum pledge is. I mean, the minimum fixed cost, if the price of ADA goes to $10, that's a big difference. And so those things should have some relationship to the cost.
I have a follow-up question for all of you. How quickly do you think this should be implemented? I mean, personally, I think that decisions need to be made now while the price is at its level right now. I don't think that these things need to be discussed if, for example, ADA 10x's. I think it's just going to make everything more convoluted. Do you think that this is a necessity to fix? How urgent do you think this is?
So for me, I would want to know the effect of doing this. What parameters, is this a new parameter, or what parameter will control these reward benefits to make it for the CP? Is it going to be a different logic, or is it something that already exists?
Yeah, so it will it changes the reward function, and it introduces two new parameters which are related to, one is related to how steep that curve is, and then one is related to at what point along the line you cross over the linear line, and so you can sort of stretch the graph out one way or the other. And those two parameters would be like K or A0 that can easily be changed by the community at a later date.
Okay.
Michael, you were saying something?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I think it's something we need to implement, like you said, now rather than later, because yeah, right now the price is low, and I think it's we're also at the start of Shelley. So if we want to change this, we change this now, so that in the future, it's a given fact. It's no longer something that needs to be discussed. It's something we can implement to counter the price of ADA, counter the put a optimal pledge. So I think in the current model, optimal pledge doesn't really exist because it's a linear model. So optimal pledge is actually fully pledged. So I was seeing it right now already. There are pools looking at delegators, getting them to change their delegation to a pledge by doing some CLI stuff. I think this will also combat or work against that kind of activities as well.
One thing I would point out too is that this is backwards compatible. If it gets implemented, like if we can do it sooner rather than later, and we decide that oh, that was really a terrible idea, it didn't work out the way we thought it would, you can set the parameters in a way that would actually restore the linear line. So it would not take a hard fork combinator event, and you could just simply change the parameters and you'd be back to the way it was before. So it's not like once you decide to do this, you're locked in.
Shawn, your insight is amazing sometimes. You need to do this more often.
Thank you.
You know what people have learned since the mainnet launched is if you want a big delegation, run a YouTube channel.
Yep.
It's true, isn't it?
Yep.
It's true.
It's true. It's true.
That was that, Ricky. That was that.
We know. Now we know, man. Now we know.
Yeah. But one thing I would like to touch about that, how soon it needs to be done. It is easier to do now because we as a community can come together, talk, and then make IOGK to change it. But if we let it go and these get to a point it's not changed, then you're gonna come back to the pools. And then the big pools, why would they vote to change that if they're gonna affect them?
Yeah.
That's might be some operators that would look after, say, oh no, that's the right thing to do, but we can't count on that. We humans, when it comes for money and it comes for business, people would, why Bitcoin never changed, why the miners don't vote to change, because there goes, I guess, the economics. And if we let it sleep now, and I don't think we're gonna see anything change in the future. So that's why I'm advocating to change it as soon as possible while IOG has the control of the network, because
I just think we need to change before the exchanges come bringing up pools, because they can do a full pledge model, and they are the ones that are gonna really have benefit of this. I think all of the small pools right now, if you see the graph, there's no pool that is doing a 50 million or 100 million pledge at the moment.
There's no more than 7.
Yeah, so
7 is
like
the biggest.
Yeah, they could. I wasn't sure. I know some have 2.5, some have, but all are within the, let's say that the most of them are between 0 and the 1 million range, something like that. I think most pools are. So everyone benefits at this point in time. But when the exchanges come popping up with their pools, yeah, they're not gonna vote for this change, because they can do fully pledged. Yeah, they can do fully pledged pools and then handle the I handle it internally on their platform.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, so it's going to be whatever we want to change. It's going to be easier to do it sooner, because the longer you wait, the harder it is to change things.
Yeah, you know what's going to make it hard to get K changed is there's nothing to vote on. Okay, I'll give you an example. Like if IOG were to change K right now, and the sleepers out there, the people who set it and forget it, they lose rewards, they're going to go back after IOG and say, IOG, you changed that parameter and you caused me to lose money. I want my money back, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that's what they should do. I'm playing devil's advocate saying, what if that happens? So that would like cool their jets on changing parameters without massive notification. Or Voltaire comes out and the community votes and says, change K. Well, they don't have a choice now.
Rick, but that's the thing. It's not the community who votes on the change on the network. If we one thing that some people are getting wrong is Voltaire is here to vote on how we handle the treasury, so we can vote where allocate funds. But when it comes to the network, is the pools, is the stake. So it's like in any other network. If we propose a change and the majority of the network does not accept that change, that nothing changes. The community can go and vote, oh yeah, we would like to change K, but if like we as operators don't agree on that, nothing changes. And that's where I think is the biggest problem if we don't change it now, because that goes against the bigger players in the game.
Yeah. Okay. There you go, Gian. Thank you for correcting that, Gian. It's the pool operators have to actually put that change in their configuration files. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Gian got it spot on. I mean, Voltaire, what we're voting for in Project Catalyst, and as that iteration improves, we're not going to be able to vote for system-wide changes. It's more like proposals to improve, build dApps, but it's completely separate of K factor and A0 and everything like that. So
does anyone know what would happen? Oh, sorry.
No. And Michael made a great point about the exchanges. Yeah. They're coming for war. I mean, they're going to squash as many stake pools out there as possible. You know, I don't think even the large pools that are thriving now, there's competition coming. And so we got to figure it out now, because they'll be able to manipulate their way through the system.
Yeah. Like Qcoin came out with that fake stake kind of thing where they give you a little bit of ADA every day for keeping your ADA on their exchange, but they got hacked. So we don't have that problem. Yeah. So how do you get to K changed? Like what happens if 51% of all the stake pool operators just go into their config file and they change that parameter? Is that going to change it? I don't know. Or is it just going to violate the protocol? It's probably what it's going to do. All right. I'm going to check chat. Philippe, we're at the top of the hour. We are ready to wrap up. If you want to get any other questions, and I'll check chat.
I'm checking chat right now, but I honestly think that these things should have been more well thought out before implementing to start off with. I know we spent a good amount of time on the ITN. I think it should have been a little bit more gradual and figured out the exact parameters we wanted to start with before starting with this, because we're having obviously a tough time getting the message across right now, or I don't know if things are going to change.
Moving forward, I don't want this podcast to end on dissatisfaction. What do we do next? Guys? How do we get these numbers changed?
I think what we're doing now is pretty important. Getting the message out, and the work Shawn is doing is great. Putting the the numbers together. I think that's as a community we need to work the way we are working, putting pressure where it needs to be put. I think that's what we can do at least. Yeah.
And I think one thing you can do is go to the Cardano improvement proposal that I put in and say, yes, I think I support this. Let them know so that the Cardano Foundation knows, and then also in the discussions in the different social medias, letting people know about this and why it's important, and then putting pressure on both the Cardano Foundation and IOG. I mean, I think that IOG is seriously considering these things and they do want to make things better. So the more we can let them know that what our opinions are, the better.
Thank you, Shawn. And I'm scanning chat, and Metroplex says, SPOCRA, make up your minds to change K or not change K, and then approach IOG. Thank you for your inputs, Metroplex. So Metroplex brings up a really good point. What about SPOCRA? And Ray from Growpool is in there. Hello, Ray. Ray was going to be on with us today. He'll be on the next podcast. But you bring up a great point. SPOCRA, they could help out. That is an interesting organization, and actually voted today on the blockchain, on the Cardano blockchain. So that was pretty cool. So Adam Dean of SPOCRA made a voting mechanism, and I was able to vote with Daedalus. It was pretty cool. It was a little bit of a workaround. It's not perfect, but it worked. But could SPOCRA help out? I'm sure they could. If you got a team of pool operators get together and say, hey, you know what? As a group, many of us have decided this is what needs to happen. And they could probably help drive K into the right direction without breaking Ouroboros. I'm of the mindset where let's try the parameters we have. Let's try adjusting the parameters we have within a certain context, because there's such a high risk with changing the software. Those parameters were designed to be changed, right? And so it's lower risk to tweak those parameters and try to find something that works well than it is to modify Ouroboros, and the risk is higher. You know what I mean? It's something to think about. But with the parameters we have, though, I think we do need to move forward and get them adjusted a little bit to make it more sustainable for pools, especially what Michael said with most people get into a business knowing the first year they're going to operate at a loss, right?
So I think the SPOCRA point that you made is quite valid. I think the SPOCRA is currently running the votes, and the turnout is not so impressive. We have over 1,000 stake pools, maybe not unique stake pool operators. Let's say we have 600. As of today, SPOCRA vote is not up to 100. So it means we don't even have a collective opinion. So this idea from Shawn is quite good, but we would need the buy-in of every other stake pool operators. So we are currently voting for the first board members, and it's been on for almost 8 days now. And the total votes, I think the last time I checked was around 80 pool operators. So we actually need more pool operators to be involved in this process and be able to vote. I'm actually one of the candidates trying to run for the initial board members on SPOCRA. So the idea is to be able to take this kind of initiative to IOG, to Cardano, to tell them this is the opinion of the pool operators. But the pool operators also need to participate. We don't have enough participation as that today.
I have another point on SPOCRA that I'd like to raise here. Maybe this low turnout of voting, does that maybe sends a message that we in a decentralized environment don't want to have a central authority representing us? Maybe this SPOCRA thing that comes up was a little bit too quick, and the operators like a SPOCRA maybe doesn't represent the stake pool operators. What do you guys think?
I think that'd be a good conversation to have with SPOCRA people on representing SPOCRA.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to go into that right now.
Yeah.
But, you know,
That's a good point.
Well, in guilds will form, you know, they're free to form. They're free to assemble.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
They're free to assemble.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think
you can make multiple competing. You could make Apollo and chicken nuggets or whatever. You can make all these different, you know, pool groups that.
Yeah, we are doing. Yeah, there are a few like popping up. I'm part of one that is like the single pool alliance. But I think what we need to be careful about is what we say that represents everybody. That's where I think gets a bit gray.
Yeah.
But that's maybe it's a talk to another time.
Oh yeah. We should do an entire podcast on that subject.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shawn. Yeah. So please come back for that one as well, Ahmed as well.
And just to get back to Rick's point a little bit earlier was about adjusting the parameters we have now. That implementing this curve pledge benefit, although it is a code change, the parameters can be adjusted to return to the same code that we have now. So to me, it's not a high risk change.
Yeah, that's a great point, Shawn. We have a safety net to fall back to. Well said.
Okay, I think we could leave it on this on that statement. We hit our hour. I think that's a good time for our live stream series. So I'm going to leave the floor to each and every one of you if you have the final words. So Ahmed, let's start with you. Do you have any last words for the listeners and viewers of the Cardano Effect?
Okay, so I'm part of the alliance called the Alliance Stake Pools Operators. It's an alliance that was formed to help support small pool operators, where we all pledge like a small fee and you get to share the reward to keep your own pool running so you don't die off. So the pool is open to get sponsors from bigger whales to be able to. So it's called the Ali pool. If the Ali pool makes block, by the end of the month, we share the reward among the 20 current stake pool operators, and that reward is supposed to be used for the operator to sustain and to run their own pools. So I'll call for delegation to the Ali pool and also to my own pool, which is the ANQA pool.
Okay. Thank you, Ahmed. And that pool is ALLI?
Yes, ALLI.
Okay. ALLI. Thank you for that. We'll get that in the comments down below.
Shawn?
Yeah, thanks for having this great discussion. I think it's really important for people to understand these things because it's complicated, and the more we can figure out simple ways to explain the problems and how we're going to solve them, the better. And if you want to support Squid Pool, that would be appreciated.
All right. Thank you, Shawn. Jian?
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you to all of you for the great discussion. Thanks for having me here. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, if you're looking for a pool to delegate, may consider Brother Pool. And if you want to get in touch, we are always around in Telegram and Twitter. And yeah, thanks again.
All right. Michael?
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. It was a great discussion. And I think, delegators, to the delegators, I want to say, get involved, pressure the Cardano Foundation to get information out, to get education out on how to best select a pool, because right now I think it's the time to do that kind of thing and stake safe, stake ADA-Vibe.
Okay. Thank you to the four of you. So just to remind everyone, Michael with Vibe, Ahmed with ANQA, Jian with Brada, and Shawn with Squid. We appreciate you joining us. You're welcome anytime. And thank you to the audience for tuning in on this Saturday afternoon. Well, it's a Saturday afternoon here. And, you know, have a wonderful weekend. We have another episode coming in at the beginning of next week, and we have some more episodes and announcements coming in the future. So we appreciate you. And until the next episode of the Cardano Effect, bye, everyone.
Bye.